Hey everyone, welcome to Wealth Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Reynolds, certified financial planner and owner of Elevation Financial. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about the psychology behind overspending and understanding the internal motivations that lead to financial impulse spending. So maybe you've found yourself coming home from a shopping trip, wondering how much you managed to spend so much. Maybe you've checked your bank account balance, and maybe you're shocked at how quickly your paycheck's disappearing. This happens to all of us at some point. And you're not alone. Overspending is a common financial challenge. It affects millions of people regardless of income level, financial knowledge. And at its core, overspending happens when we consistently spend more money than we have available or more than planned. And the behavior can lead to lots of financial problems, including debt, depleting your savings, and increased stress about money, typically. So we've got a very consumer-driven society. We're constantly bombarded with advertisements, opportunities to spend, marketing. It's really easier than ever to fall into the trap of overspending because of all the input we have. We're just inundated with marketing all the time. Most people don't realize that overspending is not just lack of willpower or financial literacy. It's often driven by deep-seated psychological factors that influence our decision-making process. Things like emotions, societal pressures, social pressures, ingrained habits, they can all play a role in our spending behaviors and can lead us to make choices that don't align with our long-term financial goals. So if we can understand these internal motivations, we can start to develop healthier financial habits. So we can recognize those psychological triggers that can lead to overspending, and that can help us address the root cause of these financial behaviors rather than just treating the symptoms or repeating the pattern. So that self-awareness is really a first step toward gaining control of spending habits and building a more secure financial future, so to speak. So let's talk about the common psychological triggers that affect many of us. So understanding the psychological triggers behind overspending is important for developing healthier financial habits. And one of the most common factors of emotional spending is when we use shopping as a coping mechanism for stress, for anxiety, or for other negative emotions. For example, after a hard day at work, you might find yourself browsing, online, making impulse purchases. That can help boost your mood temporarily. We call it retail therapy a lot of times, and it provides a temporary emotional lift, but it can lead to long-term financial consequences. Social comparison is another powerful trigger for overspending. So, in our constantly connected world, social media exposes us to curated images of other people's lifestyles. We're just constantly inundated with these carefully curated images, the highlight reel, so to speak, of other people's lives. And that can create a sense of inadequacy and a desire to, quote, keep up with the Joneses, kind of an old-fashioned phrase that we used to say to kind of keep up with others around us, keep those appearances up. So we might feel, compelled to buy the latest thing, not because we need it, but because we want to maintain a particular image or a social status. So the behavior can quickly spiral into a cycle of overspending as you try to match or exceed the perceived lifestyle of others. And that desire for instant gratification also plays a role in overspending. So we're kind of wired for immediate rewards over delayed benefits. And that can make it really challenging to resist impulse purchases. We want that immediate gratification. We're kind of wired that way. And, the ease of, shopping online is making it worse. We can buy things in one click. You can even talk to your Alexa and buy something with just a simple sentence. You might find yourself buying things before you even had a chance to consider whether you need it or can afford it. And the momentary pleasure that we get from acquiring something new can overshadow the long-term effects of that purchase. And then also the fear of missing out, or FOMO, that can drive us to overspend on experiences or products that we think are essential or are time sensitive. Things like, buying tickets to an event that's time sensitive, or rushing to buy some limited edition item or something. So FOMO creates a sense of urgency that can really override our rational decision-making processes, and that leads us to prioritize short-term experiences over long-term financial stability. So if you recognize these psychological triggers in your behavior, that can help you develop more mindful spending habits and achieve, more financial well-being. Finally, money scripts also can play a part. So some of the triggers can be rooted in these money scripts that can lead to overspending. Money scripts are these subconscious biases that we have about money that are rooted in childhood experiences, sometimes financial trauma. And in particular, the money status script is a particularly prone money script to overspending. This script links self-worth to net worth, and those with a money status script might prioritize displaying wealth, potentially leading to overspending. They might view financial prosperity as a reward for living a virtuous life, and that belief is often rooted in growing up in socioeconomically lower environments. And so, again, that money status script can lead to overspending because we're linking self-worth to net worth, and that can manifest in the form of outward appearances as well. So marketing, as mentioned before, plays a big factor in this. So, while our internal psychological triggers do play a significant role, you want to also recognize external forces that exploit those vulnerabilities. So marketing strategies and consumer culture have really become increasingly sophisticated in ability to influence our spending decisions, often without us even realizing it. Targeted advertising is one of the most important, more powerful tools actually in a marketer's kind of toolbox, so to speak. There's so much data collected about our online behaviors, interests, demographics, and so companies can create really, really personalized ads that speak directly to our desires and pain points. You might notice that after looking at a new pair of shoes online, your social media feeds are suddenly filled with advertisements for shoes. That constant exposure can create a sense of need or desire where you didn't really have a previous need or desire, and that can lead to impulse purchases. Sales promotions, limited time offers, other tactics designed to trigger our fear of missing out, and that desire for instant gratification. Phrases like while supplies last or 24-hour flash sale, that creates a sense of urgency, and that can override our rational decision-making process. We also might find ourselves buying things we don't need or can't afford because we think they're a good deal or they won't be available later. The artificial scarcity can lead to hasty decisions that don't align with our long-term financial goals. So advertisers are really skilled at tapping into our insecurities and our aspirations. They're really good at convincing us that certain products or experiences are essential for happiness, success, social acceptance. And that can lead to a constant consumption cycle because we're always chasing the next thing that promises to improve our lives. Another thing, which I've talked about before on this show and on my blog, is credit cards. So credit card companies are really, really good at marketing to all the things we mentioned, to our fears, aspirations, impulses. Things like credit card points and rewards really feed into that. And so by using credit cards, we detach the feeling of spending and the pain from spending from the actual act of spending. So there is data out there, again, showing that when people use cash or debit cards, they tend to spend less than if they use credit cards. And again, that's because credit cards detach our brains from the act of spending and we don't feel it as much. So this kind of goes with marketing and ads, but credit card companies and their rewards and the gamification of spending really feeds into all these impulses we have and can lead to overspending as well. So many people think they are responsible credit card users, but they don't realize they are falling victim to the psychological tools that credit card companies use to get us to spend more. So by being aware of these tactics, we can, start to evaluate our purchasing decisions and distinguish between genuine needs and artificially created desires, which again can give us better and more intentional spending habits. So what are some strategies for overcoming overspending? So once we understand the psychological triggers and the external influences, what are some ways we can manage those things? So one of the most effective ways to combat emotional spending is to develop better emotional regulation techniques. So for example, when you feel the urge to shop or cope with stress or negative emotions through spending, try alternative activities that can provide similar emotional relief. Things like going for a walk, maybe meditation, calling a friend, By addressing the underlying emotional need without resorting to spending, you can break the cycle of using purchasing as a coping mechanism. So implementing mindful spending practices can also help curb impulsive purchases. So, by making or before making a purchase, especially for like a non-essential item, try instituting a waiting period of 24 to 48 hours. This allows you time for the initial emotional response to kind of subside, and that helps you evaluate whether the purchase aligns with your financial goals and your values. Also, you might consider keeping a spending journal. This can work for many people. A spending journal is a journal where you note not just what you buy, but also how you feel before, during, and after the purchase. And that self-reflection can reveal patterns in your spending and help you identify some of those personal triggers. You can also create a values-based budget. Budgeting is a really powerful tool for managing overspending. When you're aligning your values with your budget, you can really get intentional about where your cash is going and manage that cash flow more effectively. You can focus on what truly matters to you because you're prioritizing it in your spending plan. And then finally, develop a clear long-term set of financial goals, things that you've written down, things that you're focused on. That can motivate you to resist the temptation to spend short-term because you're focused on long-term goals. So whether it's things like saving for a down payment on a house, building an emergency fund, planning for retirement, those concrete objectives can help put that day-to-day spending into perspective. So overcoming spending habits is not easy, not something you can resolve overnight. Takes patience and also self-compassion. Be good to yourself. Understand that nobody's perfect. We all struggle with this. But you can implement some of these strategies to stay aware of those psychological triggers and gradually start to shift your relationship with money. And that helps you build a healthier, more secure financial future. So I hope that is helpful when managing overspending. And as always, you're always welcome to reach out. My website is elevationfinancial.com. And you can send me a note through my website, or you can schedule a consultation, which is free on my website as well, if that would be helpful. All right. So with that, thanks for joining me today. As always, have a great day. We'll see you next time.